Hello, I decided to record this video because I have seen this same issue over and over again throughout my career, and I thought just putting this short video together might be helpful for some of you. And it is about academic writing. Academic writing is never easy, and then often we have a hard time writing. Sometimes I look at the computer monitor for 30 minutes and I can't even compose a sentence. That could happen. And then I have seen primarily for three reasons why we may not be able to write. What I'd like to do in this video is to point out these potential underlying issues and then maybe suggest a couple of potential solutions. The first problem when we can't write is that maybe we haven't read enough, right? So as long as you want to write certain topic, you need to be quite familiar with the concept and how it's presented, how it's defined, and then what we already know in the literature. So when we can't write, perhaps the underlying issue is we haven't read enough. So it might be a good time for us to go back to the literature and make sure we understand the baseline ideas and then what we already know in the literature. And then when you identify what we don't know, that could be the gap that our research can fill. The second underlying issues that I have seen is that so we have read enough, we have all necessary pieces of information about the topic and then previous research, but maybe we haven't thought it through yet. So we haven't come up with a cohesive story of why this matters, why we need to study it, right? So what I would suggest usually is to conceptualize the problem a little bit harder. It is difficult to do that yourself, especially if you are grad students or early career researchers with relatively limited experience. It is not easy. And even today, I sometimes ask my colleagues to help me conceptualize what I'm trying to present, right? So this is a quite important step, and if you can't simplify it or conceptualize it, there's no way that we can write the cohesive stories. Some of the things that you probably know too much about topic, so when you write it out, the information is everywhere and the readers cannot follow your argument. So it is important for you to have a clear storyline and then clearly defined and conceptualize the issues. So that's quite important thing. And another thing I sometimes do is to visualize your ideas. So if you are talking about relationship between X and Y, you should be talking about Y, you should be talking about X, and you should be talking about the relationship between X and Y, right? And then theoretically, empirically, what are the relationship between these two things? Can we explain it? So if you don't have the answer, you probably have to go back to the literature and then make sure you understand this. Then the next step is to conceptualize this. Right? Conceptualization can be defined in many ways, but in a way, given this complex world, right, we can sort of like simplify it so that we can actually test it. The last underlying issues that I have seen is that you have read enough, you have thought this through, but you still can't write. So what's the problem? This might sound a bit more serious, but perhaps that it might be a good time to revisit your writing skills and analytical skills. Because even though you have information, you thought this through, maybe you worked with your colleagues or advisor to come up with a good story, you still can't write. Perhaps you need to work on your writing skills. But this can be done while you're working on the paper at the same time. So I would encourage anyone, including myself, to continue practicing writing skills and analytical skills so that when you have ingredients, when you have recipe, you can put this story together. So that's how I see it. Hopefully these three things, maybe you haven't read enough, maybe you haven't thought it through yet. Maybe you haven't acquired sufficient writing skills. These three things could be your underlying issues of not being able to write. So hopefully this is helpful, and then maybe I'll see you next time.